I just loved it. I felt like there was just such a connection. Speaking about anger, something honestly, I don't know if I've ever heard a Sunday morning sermon on anger and how to navigate people that really deal with that, but really looking inside and realizing that we all have a little bit of angry Andy going on the inside. I just thought it was so good. So let's just open up our hearts. Let's take some notes. Let's believe that God has a leadership impartation for us tonight. Matt leads a great church that's grown to hundreds and hundreds of people, and he loves leadership. That's one of the reasons I asked him to come do team night, because he's a leader of leaders and has a great impartation in this space. So will you do this? Will you welcome Pastor Matt Molt again as he comes and pours into us? Come on.
Eric, go ahead and bring me an apple. School's in session. Go ahead, just one, I think. Okay. Doesn't that look nice? Just so you know, the seam is perfectly placed. I'm not even mad, bro. So we're good. Yeah, hey, you guys, I got to tell you, it was just super fun being at your church this morning. This is a great church. You guys have got it good. And so I'm really excited to be here, and it's almost intimidating. I was like, I don't know if I can add anything, but I think God's put some stuff in me that I could just share with you that hopefully will add to the great things that your pastors are doing. I got to tell you, your pastors are phenomenal pastors, but it's because they're phenomenal leaders. Like, they have got their mindset on the vision of what they're trying to do. They're taking the steps, and then you guys get this building, and this is incredible. I mean, what a gift. And to see the work of God that was done in this building beforehand, to see that continue, come on, that's a gift as well. And so it's just so awesome. You guys have 54,000 square feet, and we're pushing 1,000 people on a Sunday attendance right now, and we have 10,700 square feet. And so literally, when I walked in this morning, I had to deal with my anger when I saw this. I'm not kidding. I was like, I'm going to try to be happy for these guys. It's good. You know, like I had to go seriously. Like, if I'm angry, like, it doesn't change. Like, I had to just go, I'm glad for them. My day's coming. My day's coming. So I'm going to do that. I will say this. I'm going to dive into some notes. I hope you, if you're a note taker, if you're just an audible person, that's fine. I'd encourage you to take some notes, even if it's on your phone notes app, if you've got paper. I don't have a lot of things that we're going to be putting up on the screen tonight, so hopefully it's kind of like a school session and you can just really focus in and learn something. I'd like to dive into a couple topics with you and really kind of just raise the bar of your leadership as a team. You're here at team night. We do team night at our church, and it's a really valuable time for us to pour into our leaders. And it's got to be something that you've got to get a conviction in your heart that, man, when team night happens, I'm going to be there. Like, something else listen, I'm all down for going to opening night of the Avengers, but I would skip opening night to go to a team night. Probably. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, make the choice, though, to go team night. It's going to be what builds the church. And here's the reality. It's the night that you get poured into. For us, it's the time that we say, hey, we want to give back to all of our volunteers. And, you know, like, you guys have got this great dinner. We walked through the building this morning, and it smelled so good. And I'm like, who is roasting Lucky Charms? Like, that smell was just awesome. Okay, it just changed on me. Is that good? We're still good? Okay. So this is a great time for leadership to increase. And here's why we got to pour into leaders and why your personal leadership has to grow. Number one is that leadership can actually, I didn't mean number one like take notes, just in my head I'm talking out, you know. But number one reason why we've got to increase leadership is that leadership is like a muscle. And if you develop it, you can grow in it. So you can't just, people that are going to come into your church and go, I don't know if I want to do next steps. I don't know if I want to help out because I'm not really very good at anything. You can become really good at something. And leadership, you can grow. I started a blog this year in January called Learning to Lead. And you can go look at it if you want to. It's on our church website, newvintagechurch.com. And because the concept for me is not that I'm a great leader, but I'm learning to lead. And I love to read books. So I'm doing book reviews on there because I think learning is next in line to push your leadership forward. So I like learning. I like leading. I can grow in my leadership. I think I've grown in my leadership over the years. You can grow in your leadership. And I love that we got some young people in the church here today. Come on, we got some of our best worshipers right over here that just going for it. But at every age, you can grow in your leadership. So I'd like to invest for a few minutes in that tonight. And I want to talk to you about having your pastor's heart first. And we're going to talk about how leaders are builders, okay? So those are the two things. But first, I want to talk to you about having your pastor's heart, a pastor's plural. I want you to have that. If you're going to grow as a church, and I think that God gave you guys this building, put you on Sprague, which is massive. It's destiny. It's like God gave you a giant funnel and he's like, get ready to start swallowing. You know, like it's coming. Like the people are going to come. If God didn't have those plans, he would have given you my building. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and you'd be doing like 8 services and it would just be exhausting. But if you can line up your heart with your pastor's heart and you can line up your vision with their vision, what matters to them, what God put in their heart is why you're here. So you can't stop short and go, well, I really like the services, and so I'm just going to come and participate. No, you're in this room because you're not just like, I like it here, but I believe in it, and I'm going to help lead it forward. Because somebody preached the gospel for you, you're going to help by serving in kids ministry, front door, taking the pictures, whatever it is you do, because that sets the stage for the thousands of people in Spokane Valley that need this church. And so you have to line your heart up and your vision up with the vision and the heart of your pastors. They couldn't preach this message. I can. I'm going to ask them to come and preach this message to my people. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you in light of that. I wanted to talk to you about this concept of the difference between fractions. There's been a lot of math jokes tonight. That one about pi, that joke goes around every once in a while. I've heard it before. All right, fractions versus, and you can write this down, fractions versus fractals. Fractions versus fractals. And there's two things in math, and I'm going to kind of develop this thought for a second here. A fraction comes from the Latin word fractus, which was also the name of my Bible college club. Hey, fractus. No, not really. And it means broken. Fraction means broken. You guys, I'd rather just like do stand-up comedy. That'd be so much funner and just be like, hey, tip your waitress. But we'll keep going here. All right. It represents a part of a whole, or more generally, any number of equal parts. Those are fractions. Fractions are degenerative. So if you're a note taker, you can write these things down. These are going to make sense here in a minute, but it's degenerative. Think about a pizza for a second. If you have a pizza and somebody asks for 20% of the pizza and you start with 10 pieces, the first person gets how many pieces? 2 pieces of pizza. Now there's only 8 pieces left, and if somebody comes along and goes, I'd like 20% of the pizza that remains, that's a slice and a half. Now only 6.5 slices remain in the pizza. This is the saddest pizza story ever. Now if you ask for 20% of that, it leaves 5.25 slices, but the recipient only receives about 1 slice now, where they received 2 at the beginning, and now 20% after that leaves 4 pieces, etc. Fractions are degenerative. They go down in number. You tracking with me on this concept? Okay, fractals. A fractal is something that actually grows or repeats itself in time and in space. And I want to show you a picture tonight of artwork done that's fractal artwork. So this is a fractal designed artwork. And the idea is that each circle and each design, if you were to zoom in on each of these pieces, the same pattern repeats itself time after time after time. No matter how far you zoom in or how far you zoom out, the same pattern repeats itself. And so this is a fractal. And so in math, here's the notes on this. Fractals are a curve or a geometric figure, each part of which has the same statistical character as the whole. It's the picture here. I want you to see a picture of Romanesco broccoli. If you've ever been at a fancy grocery store, you've maybe seen this. It has in nature, this kind of broccoli has a fractal design. And if you were to zoom in, you'd see how this design repeats itself, and each little piece is statistically the same as the bigger piece. And so it repeats itself all the way down and all the way back up again. One other thing is you can notice this. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Portland, and we had fern plants everywhere. And here's what a fern plant looks like, and that's the leaf. But if you look at the leaf as a whole and its shape, and then you look at the first top leaf, it's the same shape. And if you take that first top leaf and you go, hey, it has the same number of leaves as the whole leaf, and that first leaf looks, a piece of the leaf looks like the other part of the leaf. I don't know how to describe this any better. I don't have a laser pointer. And if you zoomed in, you'd see each piece is repeating the same pattern. Are you tracking with me on that? Okay. Fractals are progressive, they're generative, and fractions are degenerative. The difference is that fractions are a small portion of the whole. Fractals are just a smaller version of the whole. Okay, y'all with me so far? Okay, I've got an apple here, and I'm going to cut some slices. Eric, come on up here and eat this slice of this apple. God bless you. You're hungry and you're single. I'm just throwing that out there. But go ahead. Just take one back and take one to Danny. Okay, if I were to cut these apple slices, I'm cutting off fractions of the apple. Are you all tracking with what I'm doing here? And if you eat that, it's gone and it's consumed. And then all of a sudden, this has no value left in it. That is a fraction of the apple. But if I were to have you be really, really smart and give you the core, and you took the seeds out of this apple, now you have a fractal of the apple, and you could plant this and get thousands and millions of apples over time. Okay? So we want to be a church. My point here, I hope, is starting to be made for myself, but when we want to be a church that develops fractal leaders, not fractional leaders. We want people that come into the church, join the church, to catch everything that this church is. It might be in a smaller part, but statistically they got all the chunks, and they get everything, and they're going to grow into exactly what you are and what your pastors are and the vision that God has for this church. Are you tracking with me? We want to develop fractals. Otherwise, you're going to develop fractions, and this is where churches go wrong. And the difference is leadership. And the difference is leadership. If you don't develop leaders that go, no, these are the important things. These are the core values. This is what God called us to. This is who we are. You will inevitably develop fraction people that come to your church, and all they'll do is they'll come and consume. They won't tithe. They won't sign up for a team. They won't show up for outreach. They won't go to team night. They'll just go, I just want you to feed me a fraction of what you got. I like most of what you are. We don't want that. If God's going to do what he's going to do here at Sun City Church, he's going to develop fractals in the church. And so you're a part of that tonight. So there's a very key difference, and leadership is that difference. So here's how I would look at it in a really practical way for your leaders. I would say, man, what is in their hearts to do? If the church does small groups, you should be in a small group. You can say amen. Even if you're not in one, it's okay. You should agree with this. If next steps is important, you should go to next steps. If he reads a book and goes, y'all should read this book, it was really good, guess what you should do? You should all read that book. Because you know what that book's going to do? That's going to give him some thoughts that were from God through that book. It's going to stir something in him, and he's going to go, man, I think our church could grab onto this, and it's a seed in your pastor's heart. Jamie gets up and goes, man, I read this book, and my husband's read this book, and I just want to say we're going to be going in this direction, and we're going to start doing this to reach our city. If you don't get that, you're going to fractal off. You should be doing whatever they do. You should do as much as you can. You should get on board with the vision of the church, the vision statement. You should memorize the mission statement of the church, the core values of the church. All of that's got to be ingrained in you so you can be a fractal leader. And you might go, man, I'm 13. Or you might say, I'm 65. Look, you might just be a smaller version in your influence, but it doesn't matter. As long as you got all the core parts, you're a fractal, and you can multiply, and over time it's going to grow. But if somebody zooms into your life, they should look at your life and go, you're a Sun City person, aren't you? They should see that. Don't be a fraction. Be a fractal of what God's doing here, okay? So really felt like I had to just share that with you. It was such an important thought for me and our church, and we really, we implemented next steps at our church to do exactly that, to make sure that everybody got on board with where we are. And here's the hard thing for us in our church was we had people come in, and people will do this. They'll come in, especially, let me ask you this. How many of you went to a different church than Sun City Church 3 years ago or longer. Does anybody in here belong to another church? It's okay. There's been great churches. They got us to where we're at. Most of us. So the thing is that what I found for me was that if I had people come on board and they saw what God was doing at New Vintage Church and they really liked it, it was an incredible thing, and they would get on board and they would go, what are you trying to do? Because I want to just help you get there. That person was great. But what happened is I would have people who would come in, and it was never people that were lost. It was always people who had been to another church, and they'd go, how come you don't have a choir? I mean, I really like what you're doing here, but you need a choir. I was in a choir. Did you know I directed the choir in my old thing? Or how come, you don't wear a robe when you speak with a collar, or they would just, whatever the questions are, how come you do this or that? And what would happen is people would want to have things be kind of like how they used to have it. And I'm going, I would have to draw a line and go, I'm not serving oranges, I'm serving apples. And I'd have to just pull a Southwest Airlines quote on some of them and go, there are other airlines. There's great churches in town that do this in their services. And if you want a church service that goes for 2.5 hours, I've got friends down the street. If you want a church that emphasizes this, there's some great churches. This is who we are. And I'm not trying to cater and feed everybody a slice of apple that you like. I'm trying to get everybody to get seeds, okay? So that's how in practical it helped us to really we'd have people that would come in and we'd just know they're not going to last here, and that's okay. We'll pour into them. We'll love on them. They need to find another church that's what they need, and that's all right. So if you ever leave this church and you go to another church, for whatever reason, you need to get on board with the vision of that church, and that's got to happen, because God didn't call any of us in this room to ever be a fraction. He called us to unite around a bigger vision than ourselves. And here's the honest truth. I didn't create New Vintage Church, and they didn't create Sun City Church. God dreamed this up. God goes, I'm looking for a couple that they're good with their kids, they love Jesus, they're worshipers, they're good with their finances, that I can entrust this vision to, because Spokane Valley needs God's vision. And so you got to be able to get on board with it at that level. It's not like just lining up just to get all the ducks in the row. It matters to God's heart that we're fractals of what he's doing in a church. Okay, so here is, just going to give you one practical thing you can do on a Sunday with this, and then I'll dive into the other half of the notes here. But I can do this in 2 quick thoughts. One of the practical ways you can do this is, when I taught this to our team night, I really wanted to get our church to have a pastoring heart, to get a welcoming heart. So what people say about our church in town, they go, man, New Vintage Church is the most welcoming church. Like, everybody's friendly. When you walk in, you just feel welcomed. And it's pretty true. We do a really good job. Part of that's because that's how Lisa and I are. That's the honest truth. And so our church has kind of captured that spirit, and they do that. Okay, so with that in mind, I noticed that we had started to fraction out instead of fractal out a little bit, and people came in and they're sitting with their friends and they're not watching for new people. And so I gathered our team and I said, listen, I want you to be fractals in this area. I want you to, think our church is welcoming? Everybody's like, yeah. Okay, I want you to be me, because I'm standing at the door and I cannot keep up with saying hi to all the visitors that walk out on Sunday after church. And that's what I do, is I stand at the door and I greet people. And I'm missing people. I need you to be me. I need you to be me. I need you to be me. And you to do it. So we have a guy in our church named Matt Grabowski, which is great that he's got my name. That helps. But what Matt does is he sits over in this section, and he just goes, I'm just going to own this section, the front half of that section. And he goes, if somebody comes, because that's where I always sit, and if they come and sit in my zone and I don't know them, I'm going to meet them and I'm going to invite them to lunch. And I'm going to own that section. I'm going to pastor that. I can't pastor the whole church. I got a business that I'm running, but I can pastor these people. And he just owns it. And so he'll tell me these miracle stories. He goes, oh yeah, I took this guy out. He came to our church and he's getting a divorce from his wife. And we prayed for him. We had him over for dinner, and they're going to make it. And they're coming to our church, and he was a millionaire. He's going to start tithing. That last part, we haven't had the testimony of the last part yet, but it's coming. But he's starting, he just was doing this on his own. You can begin to be the spirit of this church in the rows that you sit. You need to go, man, I got to have room in my circle, and I got to be Jamie, I got to be Danny, and I got to just include some people. Listen, the only way the church stays welcoming is if you stay welcoming. It's not going to be because they're nice. Listen, they dress cool and they're young, but they're going to get old and their clothes style is going to go out. You've got to help them by multiplying them and fractaling them and be friendly. You cannot come on a Sunday. This is my new rule for our church here. Okay? This is my new rule for our church. You may not come on a Sunday and not meet somebody new. You may not do that. I would never do that. If these guys would never do it, they'd never go in here. They'd go, it matters that they may never come back if somebody doesn't say hi and they're walking out the door, and they would chase them down. You need to be that person. You need to own that. You just got to go, this is my row. This is my section. When a new family comes up and signs in their kid, I'm going to get that lady's number, and I'm going to invite her to my ladies' coffee time I do or whatever. Okay. The other thing we're doing to do this is our church has gone through 3 stages, I think, of growth. And your guys are growing so rapidly, so quickly. We're a little bit bigger than you, but in speed and ratio, you guys are going to surpass us, which I'm cheering you on. I want that for you. It's awesome. But then we're going to get Pasco, and we're going to beat you because it's going to be awesome. We're just going to go, vroom, vroom, vroom. We're just going to keep going. It's not a competition, and I'm not mad, but it's my turn for the next building, and you just wait till you see what I get. Oh, man. But here's the stages of growth and leadership, okay? Stage 1 looks like this. A leader, a volunteer, oversees the job for one service. Stage 2 for us was that a person oversees the job for multiple services. Stage 3 is now, I'm looking for leaders that can schedule multiple people for multiple services for multiple campuses. So people's leadership has had to grow because more people are coming in. So you can't just let your leadership be, I'm going to do a task. Your leadership has to go to the next level and go, I can do this if we add a 3rd service. I could do this. And I might not be able to do it every Sunday, but I could do it. And I'm going to do it. And we're going to be adding people from Next Steps. So I'm going to promote Next Steps and get them on my team and make it easy for me. And then all of a sudden, as the church grows to 1,000 to 2,000 people, all of a sudden you learned how to grow to that step. You're going to go, I'm going to step over the line. And now I'm going to find on my team of people that came on the same team as me, I'm going to start to identify key leaders. And I'm going to go, I want you to own first service. I want you to own second service. And I want you to own the night service. And and you start to train and pastor and pass on the fractaling of what's important in your department. So there's stages of growth, and you guys have got to quickly adapt from going, I'm here to do a task, I came to team night because they told me to ownership, to I'm going to do it more than I thought I could, and then I'm going to train others to do it. That's how leadership grows. It's not that you do more tasks, it's that you train more people to do the tasks. Okay? All right, I'm going to jump off of that. Take a drink of my horchata thingy they made. It's really nice. All right, leaders are builders. Okay, last thought. I'll give this to you in, got like 10 minutes, right? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? 10 minutes, we're going to do it. Well, yes, except that I'm going to fractal him. So, yes. But okay, if he's in agreement, yes. Leaders are builders. Some people, even in the Christian world, are perceived as to be leaders, but they only tear things down. They deconstruct and they demolish things. True leaders are builders, and they leave something behind. So I think that the attitude of a leader has to be a builder, because you can be a leader and lead people in negative. You could start a anti-Sun City Facebook page and be a leader and get a bunch of people to follow that. But leaders build things. Real leaders build things. It's easy. Anybody can critique something. Not everybody can build something. But leaders are builders. And that's an important thing. We're called to build the church. I really want you to think really big level for a second and realize that if Sun City Church wasn't here, it's possible in the next 10 years that thousands of people will not come to know Jesus. Like, you got to own that. You got to go, we were sent here. We were brought here. Like, it matters. The jobs that you have, the block you live on, the schools that your kids go to class, all those families, like that matters. And so you've got to see that from heaven's perspective, Sun City Church absolutely matters. And so for you to build the church and help it get to the next level, is so crucial and critical, and real leaders are builders. So a couple scriptures you can write down. Hebrews 3:4 says every house has a builder, but the one who built everything is God. But this house has a builder, and it's Danny and Jamie Schultz and the leadership team here and all of you. And yeah, God's in charge of everything, but he's got builders at this local church. 1 Corinthians 3, 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9 says, for we're both God's workers, and you are God's field, you are God's building. When God is building the church, he's building people. And that's why we do team night, is to build you up and hopefully encourage you to go, yeah, okay, I can do this. I'm a part of something big, and this is awesome, and we're going to do it, and we're going to make it happen. Paul in Ephesians chapter 2:20 said, together we're his house. We're built on the foundation of the apostles and the prophets. The cornerstone is Jesus, but we are the house that Jesus is building. It's about people. Peter in 1 Peter chapter 2 echoed the same sentiment in verse 4 and 5. He said, you come to Christ, who's the living cornerstone, and he says, but you're the living stones that he's putting together. And so as he's connecting you just got to see that there's this theme in the Bible that the church is, it's not the building, it's the people that he's building. And then last part of that thought for me is Hebrews 12:12 says, take a new grip, and this is what I'd like to challenge you with tonight. And then one last thought, but Hebrews 12:12 says, take a new grip with your tired hands, strengthen your weak knees, mark out a straight path for your feet, so that those who are weak and are lame, in other words, those who are coming in behind you, will not fail, but they'll become strong. As you strengthen yourself, you're putting that into the genetic code of this church to fractal that out for people who are going to come in addicted, beat up, divorced, alone, all kinds of problems. And you go, man, I strengthened myself by following Christ. They're going to come in and go, I could strengthen myself like they did. And so you're going to pass that on. Man, I've got one last story, I guess, to tell you, and that's okay. That's just good. So speakers always run out of time. That's just a thing, so that's okay. But there was a story my dad told me. My dad was a builder. So when I was a kid, we installed fireplaces. He was a bricklayer, and I carried hod for him, which is really difficult work. And we installed flue pipes up in for wood stoves. And we also did parking lot stripes and parking lot curbs. So I shoveled cement off the back of a truck into an auger all day and would shovel 2 to 3 yards of wet cement. That's why I look so amazing right now. It's from my childhood. And so he was in construction. He tells me this story one day, and it really resonated with me that there was a man who was a home builder, a construction guy, and he owned his own business, had a lot of subs. He was a general contractor. And he had hired this guy and said, hey, if you'll come and work for me, give me 5 years, I'm going to make it worth your while. I can't pay you a lot, but I'll make it worth it to you at the end. And the guy didn't have a job, and so he said, okay, I'll take it. And he needed whatever job he could get. So he got this job, and he's building these homes. And they're not just normal homes like row homes. They're custom homes, really nice quality homes. And the guy who got hired by the old man got a little bit upset as over time he knew how much the bids were coming in and what it cost them to build the house, and then how much they were selling the house for. And he got really upset with the general going, you're making, $80,000 on this home. And I worked on it for 3 months and I made, $9,000 or whatever. And he just didn't see the benefit. And he started to get something wrong in his life. And so he started to do a little bit less quality work as he's building the houses because he just didn't care about it as much. The old man comes to him one day and goes, hey, I'm going to be retiring, and I've got one last project I want you to work on. And he says, I want you to build this home. It's really going to be my masterpiece home. It's going to be the best home I've ever built. It's going to be the biggest, coolest, going to have some really cool new features and all that. And he goes, so I just want you to take extra special care. Now, this guy had gotten in his heart kind of a weird thing with the owner. And so he says yes on the outside, but inside he's kind of going, man, this guy has treated me, robbed me blind. He's going to build the biggest house, make the most money. As he's on his way out, and he goes, I am not going to do it. Instead of doing the studs exactly right, if he miscut one, he goes, it'll work. We'll just put it, And he just started to do shoddy work on this house. And it's this beautiful custom house. And he really did hit the worst work he'd ever done, even though it was supposed to be the finest house that they had produced. And at the end, he says, hey, I'm getting my team together to come for the sale of the house, and I want you to be there. So the owner is there, and the guy who did the majority of the construction comes driving up with this bad attitude, and there's nobody else there, and he goes, hey, when are the buyers coming? He goes, oh, they're here. He goes, I've got a surprise for you. And he pulls out of his pocket the keys, and he goes, this house is yours. He goes, I wanted to give my best to you. You've given me 5 great years, and I didn't pay you anything, but I wanted to give you my best house. And I remember hearing that story, and as a kid, I started crying. I didn't know why, but I've just always been emotional. And I was like, wow. But listen, think about this. You've got to have a heart that lines up with your pastors, and you've got to build this church, these people that you're sitting next to, and you can't afford to have a bad attitude, because someday God's going, I'm going to bring in your family that you've been praying for 5 years, for 10 years. I'm going to bless you and yours, and God makes it up at the end. Don't do shoddy work. Don't get a bad attitude. Don't let your heart get twerked. Don't twerk either. Don't let your heart get tweaked. Don't do either of those things. And leaders are builders. Okay, so I will end with this, and you guys can take it and do what you want with this. The notes that I wanted to get to that I didn't, but I'm just going to give you the headlines, is this. Out of Nehemiah chapter 4, 5, and 6. It was the guys who built the city of God. It's my favorite Old Testament story. And what they did is I'll give you a 1-minute overview. They were called together. The entire city's broken down. And if you look around Spokane Valley, there are places that spiritually are devastated, that need God to do it. And here's what they did is Nehemiah comes in and he goes, I want you to all work on the section of the wall that's right in front of your own house. And that's how they did it. Yeah. And I love that. So here's the little 7 points I was going to give you. And it's just they didn't compare their job to their neighbor's job. They just go, this is what I was asked to do. They didn't compare. They didn't complain. They collaborated and they built it together. Come on, this is good stuff right here. They continued. They didn't quit. They were always ready for action. I don't have a cool C word, but it's still an amazing thing. They were always ready for action. They didn't come down off the wall, even when the enemy was tormenting them. And they didn't coalesce to the discouragement of the enemy. And somehow when everybody just said, we're going to do our part, we're going to get on the wall, we're not going to quit, we're not going to give up, we're going to help each other, we're going to watch, and we're going to, no matter what comes against us, we know that building this mattered. Yes. And that's how God rebuilt the city of Jerusalem. All right. God bless you guys. Thanks so much.
Come on, do you guys enjoy that? So good. People are going to walk in here on a Sunday. We're all going to be using the word fractal. They'll be like, it's a secret word. We don't know what that means. But I just so appreciate that heart. It's so beautiful. Just a couple things to cast a little bit about a vision just for what's coming up in the next month to 6 weeks or so. And then we'll go out and eat some amazing pulled pork together and just fellowship and connect. But we are, as Pastor Matt said, just in a time of rapid growth. And you might have been noticing that on Sundays. Definitely if you're serving in children's ministry, you're noticing as it's multiplying back there in all kinds of great ways. You probably got the email, but on Easter we had 1,168 people, which was our largest service that we've ever had. 97 people commit their lives to Jesus. We got their cards and following up with them. What I thought was so fascinating is of the adults in the auditorium, 1 out of every 3 people that were in our Easter service were not believers when they came in. And I don't know what the national statistics are for that, but all I know is I was so happy, right? For every 2 believers, there was a non-believer here. And 97 of them said, yep, I can make that decision and start today. So amazing. But maybe what's even more exciting for me is the Sunday after Easter when Pastor Jenny preached, we had our highest number of returning guests that we've ever had in the history of Sun City. And yeah, I was just so shocked. Usually the Sunday after Easter is, statistically speaking, for most churches everywhere, kind of your lowest Sunday of the year. It's because everyone has gone on Easter and they're like, we did it for this month, we're out, and then they're all gone. And you basically have the core and the dream team there, and we just had a pretty normal Sunday, and then last Sunday set a new attendance record for us as a kind of regular Sunday, and then again this week, that same number. And so it's very, very exciting. to be where we are, people continuing to come to Jesus. We reformatted Next Steps to kind of try to make it smaller and more personal, and the numbers are continuing to be really large back there, and, which is exciting as well. You know, all of the Philip and his team, they're like, we can order less food now because it'll be less people, and there's still more people coming. So we'll see how that goes. All that to say, like, things are going awesome, but it's more important now than ever that we lean strong into groups and teams. And so this is not the time to go like, hey, things are going good, relax, it's all going to work out. No, like, more people are coming, which means we have to work harder and harder to get them connected. And so if there's any part of you that could just re-up, fractal this out, right? Re-up for your passion for small groups as we're coming to the end of this semester, and maybe you're ready for a break. We're about to have a 4-week break in May, but as we get ready for June and we're getting ready for Serve Day and all that God wants to do in the summer, what small group am I going to be a part of? What small group does God want me to lead? How's my ministry team doing? Am I inviting someone to join me? That's the place of connection. Sundays are going great, but we have to help people get connected. And one of the things that we want to do in preparation for that is on the weekend of May 19th and 20th, Pastor Mark Estes will be here from City Bible Church, one of our elders, and we'll be hosting our very first small group leader summit. And so this will be for all leaders of small groups, as well as those who are not leading this summer, but they want to lead in the future. So anyone who's interested, led in the past, wants to lead in the future, it's going to be equipping and just inspiring for all small group leaders. So I want you to kind of get that weekend on your calendar. It's going to be really, really good. And then team night falls on the following weekend, which is Memorial Day weekend. So I know many of you will be out of town and doing different things. But what we decided to do is do a team night barbecue on Memorial weekend. And so we're going to figure out the place we're going to have it, reserve a park or something, and go cook out and have a barbecue, and just have a time where, as a team, we can get out, eat burgers together, and connect and fellowship for long, extended periods of time. Honestly, it's one of the most exciting things to us as a leadership team about team night. Like, that was amazing worship tonight. Great prophetic ministry and inspiring leadership equipping. But honestly, my favorite is watching all of you guys go out and sit around the tables together and share your lives with one another as you eat together. There's something so biblical about gathering around a table, right? So beautiful. And so next team night, we're going to do that. We're going to have some fun. We'll play some games. We'll eat some burgers. It's going to be awesome. So if you're in town, we would love you to be there May 27th. And can I have one more request that you could all fractal out to all the Dream Team? Would you kind of renew your commitment that when we send out our video called The Five every week, would you watch it? And you're like, oh, yeah, I gotta watch it. I actually know the statistics of how many people open the email, and I actually can go in and click every individual name and see who watches it. And so we actually, and I don't do that to guilt you or pressure you in any way, just to say, we do put a lot of time into thinking of the content and producing it, and then Kyle and the team, they edit it all up, and Shalom designs all the email, and there's a lot that goes into it, and it's usually between 2 and 4 minutes every single week. We call it The Five because we promise we're going to keep it under 5 minutes. And so if you could just take 5 minutes of your week, it's one of those ways we're trying to get the values and the vision and the DNA in this constant stream into your life. And we so value your time and appreciate it if you would watch that as it comes across your email. If you're not getting it, please come talk to us. The best person to talk to is Shalom, because she's making sure that it's going out every week, and we want to make sure you're on that email list. But it would just be so great for the vision if we would all partake in that and do that, and it would just make me so happy. So, sound good? Love you guys. Are you guys ready to go eat together? We know that many of you have young kids and you have to take off and put them to bed. We understand. If you can stay in fellowship with us, that's what this is all about. God bless you. We love you. Let's go eat together. Have a great night.